marine biodiversity would flourish, overfished populations would recover, and destructive practices like trawling would cease. There would also be huge nutritional deficiencies and severe economic disruption. These are just some of the things that would happen if we suddenly stopped fishing. Our oceans are a vital source of food for millions of people around the world. Countries with high fish consumption, particularly coastal and island nations, would be the most affected. Regions like Southeast Asia, Japan, and parts of Africa rely heavily on fish as a primary protein source. In some of these regions, fish accounts for over 50% of the animal protein intake. A sudden loss of seafood would lead to nutritional deficiencies and severe economic disruption. So what if we tried to compensate for the loss of ocean resources with terrestrial farming? Could it fill the gap left by the fishing industry? To grasp the scale, consider that global fish production is approximately 179 million tons per year. Replacing this with land-based food sources requires calculating the equivalent farmland. Let's use soybeans as an example. On average, fish meat is about 20% protein. Factoring in the inedible parts like bones, it drops to roughly 15% for whole fish. This totals to about 26.85 million tons of protein from fish annually. According to a meta-analysis of over 700 studies, soybeans require 1.04 square meters of land to produce 100 grams of protein per year. Therefore, to match the protein from fish with soybeans, we would need around 279,000 square kilometers of farmland, an area roughly the size of the United Kingdom. This is relatively small compared to the 48 million square kilometers currently used for terrestrial farming globally. However, this assumes everyone would consume soybeans instead of fish, which isn't realistic. The protein deficit would likely be replaced by a variety of sources, many of which require significantly more land than soybeans. For instance, organic grass-fed beef demands 150 times more land per gram of protein than soybean. This would mean needing 42 million square kilometers of farmland to replace the protein deficit, an area approximately 4.5 times the size of the USA. Of course, these are extreme scenarios. The reality would likely fall somewhere in between, leaning towards the lower end of the scale, as there simply isn't enough arable land available to rear such large quantities of livestock. Most people would have to shift towards a plant-based diet, while wealthier individuals might afford the increasingly expensive meat. Let's explore the environmental impacts of replacing fishing with terrestrial farming. First, marine biodiversity would flourish, overfished populations would recover, and destructive practices like trawling would cease, preserving vital habitats such as coral reefs and seagrass beds. Second, healthier oceans can sequester more carbon. Coastal habitats like mangroves and seagrasses are incredibly effective at capturing carbon dioxide. Moreover, the fishing industry is a major emitter of greenhouse gases. Reducing fishing activities would significantly cut these emissions. Bycatch would be eliminated. Non-target species like dolphins, turtles, and seabirds often get caught in fishing nets, disrupting ecological balance. Stopping fishing would spare these lives and maintain marine biodiversity. These are just a few of the positive impacts we would see. But what about the downsides? Expanding farmland often leads to deforestation, especially in biodiverse tropical regions. This destroys habitats, leading to significant biodiversity loss. Agriculture also demands enormous amounts of water. Crops like soybeans and livestock farming consume vast freshwater resources, potentially causing water scarcity. Fertilizers and pesticides used in farming can run off into water bodies, causing eutrophication and harming aquatic ecosystems. Intensive farming practices lead to soil erosion and nutrient depletion, necessitating increased use of chemical fertilizers that further harm the environment. Livestock farming, particularly cattle, produces significant methane emissions, a potent greenhouse gas. Land conversion for agriculture also releases stored carbon into the atmosphere. Balancing the need for protein with environmental sustainability is a complex challenge. However, solutions such as sustainable agricultural practices and embracing alternative sources of protein offer promising avenues. What are your thoughts on shifting our food sources? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more insightful content.